Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and this is BP NFL. It's time to look ahead to Thursday Night Football, and wouldn't you know it, the Steelers are playing in Cleveland. Scott Bogman's own Pittsburgh Steelers coming off a huge victory against, as he likes to call them, the Ratbirds. And we're going to break down the game for you. Another in-division game, short week, not a lot of travel, some weather all day, though. Looks like a lot of rain going on in the forecast. We'll talk about that, too, how we feel that might impact some of this game. But Scott Bogman, you got to feel just terrific. I know we talked about it a little bit on Out of Bounds on the FP feed, how good you're feeling about the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. Defense looks really good. Russell Wilson getting the job done. I mean, it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving, because I think as a Steeler fan, you probably had lower expectations this year, but now all of a sudden, I think those expectations have been elevated quite a bit.
I mean, if we don't make the playoffs sitting at 8-2 right here, then I will be severely disappointed, right? Like, you start out this well. It does feel a little bit like the 11-0 season, right? Like, where this team is good. They're probably playing over their head, but I think people just come to expect that with the Tomlin team anymore, is this team is going to play over their head. Quarterback issues aren't 100% resolved, but they're way better. And look, Tomlin was 100% correct, and myself and every other Steeler fan was incorrect in wanting Justin Fields to stick, because Russell has just simply led this offense to more points. So it is working.
It is working, and it's working against some good teams, too. Washington, and then obviously the Baltimore Ravens. So we'll see if it works against a bad team this week. Before we get to the breakdown for Thursday Night Football, don't forget, join our NFL podcast group. Again, you can sync your picks for free when you download the Betting Pros app. Again, you can use the quick pick feature to make picks on Betting Pros on the app. And when you do, and you're part of our NFL podcast group, you can get some cool stuff. So we're getting a chance to get weekly prizes and monthly prizes, elevate your betting strategies, and join the conversation today at bettingpros.com/NFL contest. Again, that's bettingpros.com/NFL contest. You don't even have to make a bet. You just have to make picks, and you can win some cool free stuff. So download the app, sync your sportsbooks for free, and go ahead and join the contest today. Boggs, let's take a look at the tail of the tape for these two teams here. Maybe it will resemble a little bit of the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight. Just kind of beat around each other a little bit. You know, I don't know if the Steelers are going to be bowing at the end in the fourth quarter with a few seconds left. I wouldn't put it past Russell Wilson to do something weird like that, though. That feels like something he would do. The Pittsburgh Steelers, 3.5-point favorites in this one. You're getting this at PointsBet at -105. The best line you'll find right now is ESPN Bet at +3.5 at -105 for the Cleveland Browns. 36.5. That's kind of where you're finding this game sitting at most sportsbooks right now. And if you like Cleveland Browns for the upset, and I don't, it's +165. Now, here's the only question, Boggs. Is this a bit of a trap game after a very emotional victory on Sunday? Short week. I know it's not a big travel. You know, I kept saying all week how the Detroit Lions don't understand the definition of trap game. They just don't. And once again, they just obliterated a lesser opponent at home. Pittsburgh here, it feels like an inevitable letdown, but at the same time, the Cleveland Browns have been so miserable these last few games that I just can't go against them this week.
Yeah, I mean, where do they get trapped, I guess, is my question. In what phase?
Question. Yeah, I can't find it either.
I think if they do, the phase would be Myles Garrett just wrecking everything, right? Like, that is the fear when you play a team like Cleveland with a player at the level of Myles Garrett, is that A, he's going to just wreck your game plan, and B, he's going to swing helmets at your team. So, these are the things on Thursday Night Football that you worry about. So
it wasn't a Thursday night. I forgot.
Yeah, it was a Thursday night. Yeah. It was Thursday or Monday. I can't remember, but
it was a primetime game for sure.
Yeah.
It was a primetime game for sure.
But yeah, I mean, look, the Cleveland looked miserable against the Saints, right? And I know the Rizzler has the Saints moving up and down the field or whatever, but they got beat by Taysom Hill. What's George Pickens going to do to him? What's Najee and Warren going to do? So, it's a division game. It's a heated rivalry. These teams don't like each other. So, there's always something weird that can happen, but these two teams are heading in opposite directions, in my opinion, right now, as the Steelers are ascending and kind of finding their groove on offense, and Cleveland is clunky right now in moving pieces. And Nick Chubb has not shown that explosion. Now, this is a big, Minkah Fitzpatrick is a guy that hurt Chubb last year. So this is a big revenge game, I guess you could say, for Nick Chubb. So maybe there's some angle that they latch onto and they just fight for that thing. But I don't know. In my opinion, taking my homerism out of it, these two teams are going in opposite directions right now.
Well, I definitely feel like it. I mean, the record certainly suggests that too. It's just a matter of, is there a letdown? And that happens sometimes with teams, big emotional victories.
That's a college thing.
These are not. It's not. It's not. And I see it happen in the NFL every single year. Now, it hasn't happened as much this year because they've had a very have and have not sort of NFL this season. I feel like the parity is not quite what it's been in years past. And it's large in part due to the inexperience and youth of the quarterback positions that you're seeing in a lot of spots, or just the flat out terrible quarterback play.
Well, you have two veterans in this game.
Right, exactly. So you look, I get that. I'm staying away from the game itself. I like some of the props. We're going to get to those in a second. And for the props, make sure, and just to be clear too, you're in on Pittsburgh on the money line here, which again is tough. I'll show you how to make money on the money line with Pittsburgh in just a moment here. And you're also on the over for this game, correct?
Yeah, I did 36.5 is not enough points in an NFL game. So
okay,
when we get to
conditions in there and stuff like that.
Yeah, if we get to under 40, I mean, even in these conditions, I'm more concerned about the wind than I am the rain.
See, wind is always the problem in that stadium too, typically speaking.
So right.
So rain is not my problem, it's the wind.
But are you going to doubt Chris Boswell in any conditions to go out there and nail his field goals? You shouldn't, because he hit 6 last week.
I doubt Justin Tucker to make any field goals nowadays. And I'm just saying, man. And this is not the first game this has happened for him. But
no,
sorry,
I still love fans. Justin Tucker because Texas.
There you go.
But
there you go. You guys go back.
He's been a Raven longer than he was a Longhorn. So
that's true. Well, luckily, otherwise he would have been left back. Let's talk about some of the props. Remember, go to the prop bet cheat sheet over on Betting Pros to make sure you're finding the best props for every single game. We take the fantasy projections and we take the over-unders and we show you the best overs, the best unders, and then the best places to bet them. So go to bettingpros.com/props to check that out today. And Boggs, let's check out some of yours too. Let's start with Russell Wilson. The number's 26.5 pass attempts. Are we going over or under?
Yeah, I'm going to go over on this one. And it's because every single start that Russell Wilson has had, he's gone over this pass attempts total. And opponents are averaging 28.7 attempts per game versus Cleveland. In the last month, it's really been, Carr had 27 last week in a stomping of Cleveland. They didn't need to pass the ball that much. Herbert had 27. Lamar had 38, so Burrow had 25, but that was when they were having some injuries at the wide receiver spot and kind of finding their rhythm. So Russell has passed this constantly. Opponents against Cleveland have passed this constantly. I know there's some rain, but again, unless the wind is crazy all night, which it might be, it is the mistake by the lake, right? So
it is.
There is a possibility for that. But unless the wind is crazy all night, I think Russell is going to be able to pass. I think he will pass. And this defense is gettable. They showed that last week.
Well, the secondary especially, there's so much miscommunication. There's so many times where you watch these games with Cleveland where guys are just wide open.
Yeah,
you saw it with MVS. You saw it the week before. It just happens to them. The next one here is a really curious number. It's only 56.5 for George Pickens in the receiving yards, and I'm trying to wonder why Vegas is baiting me so easily for this one, because he's gone over this 4 straight weeks. It was at 70.5 for the last game, and I bet it, and I smashed he went to 89, so that was an easy one. So this is so low, it almost feels like kind of offensive in a way. So what's happening here? Because whenever I see something that's really fishy or a number like this is we're going from 70.5 to 56.5, and I know we're going from the Ravens to the Browns, but is the Browns secondary playing all that much better? Not really.
No, so the overall secondary isn't, but Denzel Ward is very good. And I think that is the reason that this number is kind of low, plus the weather, as you mentioned before, could make this a little bit. But we know George Pickens picks these up in chunks. He is a dot guy. He is. Exactly. This is why he fits with Russell Wilson so well, is because Russell throws the rainbow ball, and a 50-50 ball to Pickens is an 80-20 ball to him, really, honestly. So, and they have hit their stride in the starts with Russ. 111, 74, 91, 89 have been George Pickens' numbers. So I guess maybe there's a bunch of factors that could contribute to this going under. I understand that. The weather, maybe Pittsburgh just blows out Cleveland. They don't need to put the ball up, right? That could be a thing. As you said, the spread is 3.5. It's not like it's 7. It's not 10. Pittsburgh drags you into the mud and beats you up. That's what they do. So,
and on top of which, now you're seeing that number even lower in some other spots, by the way, because I'm looking right now. It must have updated this morning because we put the show together last night, and looking this morning too, that 56.5 right now, I'm finding let me see if I can pull this up here.
It was 55.5 last night on DK when I looked. So it went up 1 yard.
It is changing. It's weird because there's some that are 55.5 on one end of the spectrum. And then all the way on like ESPN bet, it's 59.5. So it's very curious that it's such a wide spec. Usually you see it within like a yard, maybe two, not like 3 or 4. Like that's very odd to see that. So
I'm guessing it's curious. I'm guessing mainly it's the weather report, but I mean,
probably.
Why do we believe these weather reports?
Well, but this is why you use BettingPros. Like you look at BetMGM, you're like 55.5, boom, let's take it, and then hope for the best there.
Yeah,
I mean, this is pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean the weather reports that I've seen specifically, because I have to look at a bunch for college, have been just awful at predicting the weather. I mean, I'm like, oh look, rain in this game. No rain, none. Just
hey, look, we're recording this, on Wednesday, so obviously, if you see something change in the patterns, change your patterns accordingly. I mean, that's what we're trying to do here. Let's talk about Jerry Jeudy because the pattern seems to be changing with him too. You're looking at the receptions number here, and the number is 3.5. Now he has gone over this in the last 3 games here: 5 in week 8. In week 9, 7, and then in week 11, 6. So this seems like another smash potentially. Again, circumstances being what they are, but I assume this is also an over for you.
Yeah, it's definitely an over for me. 30 targets in 3 games with Winston as the starter for Jerry Jeudy. 5, 7, and 6 receptions in those games. As you mentioned, the spread suggests that they're going to be down late and trying to play comeback. And we saw him get the big hitter last week. So I think that he is just becoming more involved. And Jameis Winston, in his starts since taking over, is averaging 44.3 pass attempts. So, Cedric Tillman, Eli Moore, and Njoku, and Jeudy, you have a lot of targets to throw the ball to. But I think they'll move Jeudy around enough as long as, Joey Porter Jr., who just came off an amazing game, is not on him the whole game. I think he can get to 4 catches.
All right, let's get to the next one here. I know you like the longest receptions. Let's talk about Cedric Tillman. The number is 19.5, and you like the over at -110.
Yeah, 40 targets in the last 4 games, and he's hit this in 3 of those last 4 games, 25, 38, 17, 22. And Pittsburgh gives up long receptions. We saw even last week in the win, they gave up 42 and 23 and 22 to 3 different players. They gave up longer than this to McLaurin and McCaffrey. Longer than this to Slayton and Theo Johnson. Longer than this to Hall and Wilson. So the Steelers, when they do give up, this is the bend but don't break. When they do break, they give up huge receptions. And Cedric Tillman is your ADOT guy for Cleveland. He's going to be the guy that is there to stretch the field. They're going to take a couple shots at him, and all he has to do is come down with 1. So I think he can do that, and I've hit this like 2 weeks in a row, so I'm liking it.
All right, let's go to the defensive side, because if you don't pick a defensive prop when the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing, like that's just misery. So we can't have a show like that. So Boggs, Thursday Night Football, Pittsburgh Steelers. I assume we're going on the Steelers side. What do you have?
Herbig. Let's get a Herbig sack. This one, shout out to our boy Pat Fitzmaurice, this Wisconsin guy. He loves it when I talk about Herbig here.
He does.
82% snap share last week with Alex Highsmith down. The extra chips and blocks are going to be rolled towards TJ Watt. We know that. And the Browns are giving up 4.6 sacks per game, most in the NFL. That has dropped since Winston took over to 3.7, but that would make them the second worst in the NFL. So the offensive line is still bad in Cleveland is the point. Herbig has missed 4 games with injury, but he came back a couple weeks ago. He still has the 7th highest pass rush grade, according to PFF. He's players that are just ahead of him: Hutchinson, Garrett, Solomon, Hendrickson, Parsons, and Watt. Just below him, Greg Rousseau, Nick Bosa, Josh Allen, Alex Highsmith, Keon White, and Jared Verse, who are all having fantastic years. So I think if Herbig was, playing for a different team and he didn't have this injury, we would be talking about him a lot more. And right now the prop is plus 175 for a quarter of a sack. So even if he's just on the back end of a TJ Watt sack and they give him credit for half, you get this. So this is my favorite bet of this game, is because it's plus money and that offensive line is bad in Cleveland. And they're throwing the ball 44 times a game, maybe less because of the weather, but I still think
40 of them to the other team. So that makes it really difficult. Let's get to the same game parlay for Thursday night football. Keeping this one simple. I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers on the money line. Again, I don't want to muck around with the overs and unders or the points with this one. I just, in division game, short week, weather, variables. I don't like variables. I think the Steelers win no matter what. And if they don't, then what was all of that for on Sunday, damn it? So give me the Pittsburgh Steelers and give me George Pickens to score a touchdown. You put those two things together, you're going to get almost 3-1. Plus 297 is the number that I got on it over on FanDuel. So go check that out. And if you want to play around with same game parlays, you can do it on the BettingPros app too with the same game parlay builder. You can combine multiple bets with a single NFL game. You can leverage the insights like correlated bet recommendations, EV ratings, cover probability. You can use the prop bet cheat sheet, use all the tools and put together your favorite same game parlay and perfect your betting strategies by analyzing our overall correlation grades and projections and stay ahead following the latest SGPs placed by fellow bettors. So start building winning parlays today at bettingpros.com/parlay or on the Betting Pros app today. All right, let's get after it here. Let's start with the touchdown calls because we've got the same one, but I found a better number than you, D.
Yeah, I'm going George Pickens plus 195. And look, this is big plus money, and you found it better because George Pickens only has 2 touchdowns this year.
He does.
So
he does.
They get down to the goal line. They like to give the ball to Najee, right? So they also don't get to the goal line very often. 6 field goals to beat Baltimore last week. So they did throw that. I mean, Darnell Washington just needs to jump. I don't know if you saw that pick Russ threw in the back of the end zone against Baltimore, but like Darnell Washington standing there flat footed, just go up and get it. You're 6'8" or whatever you are. Like even if you slide a whole credit card underneath you when you jump, give yourself a little bit, stick your arms up. Come on, man. So
I agree.
But yeah, I Pickens makes
I think
spectacular
big
plays
touchdown catch.
when
That's what I
the
think.
lights are on. Yeah. So
and there were some moments too where, it's like, not in bounds, catching balls in the end zone. Like there's been moments here with the Steelers and Pickens where it's a lot of almosts too. So that total, I bet if you did the expected touchdown total, we'll go call up Andrew Erickson to get that number. I guarantee you it's probably much higher than 2.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
yes.
It's probably more like 5 or 6. So I'm going to go get this George Pickens number at plus 230. That's where I found it. So again, this is why I use the app, baby. More than 2-1. Let's go. Put it together with the Steelers on the money line. And hopefully that's a very nice Thursday for everybody. So go out there, have some fun. And just as a quick shout out too, for next week with the holidays, just so you all know, we've got not 1, not 2, but 3 Thursday night games, or Thursday games, I should say, because it's Thanksgiving. So we're going to have Thursday. That's right. Day, afternoon, night. Night came very soon for the Cowboys. That's for sure in 2024, but we're going to be having a special for all of that. So we're going to be breaking those games down for you early next week. So you're prepared to make sure that you have something to do while you're sitting around after you eat all your Thanksgiving feast and you're betting on a bunch of football games, and also Black Friday game too. So we got a lot of standalone action for you next week. So stay on top of the YouTube channel. Again, Betting Pros, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell till it goes ding. We love having you here with us. And also, of course, the podcast feed, wherever you get your podcast. So that'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Scott Bogman, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Enjoy Thursday night. And hopefully Bogman Steelers don't lose, because that will make him very grouchy.
Here we go.
Very grouchy.